Hi, baby boomer fans. We are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade.
We chronicle the distinct memories of our childhood in our book, While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America in the 1950s, which takes you on a notably historic journey through that often forgotten decade. We also want to hear about your experiences during the 1950s. We will feature guests whose special stories of that decade will bring to mind magical moments of reflection, some with tears, some with smiles, but above all, a good dose of laughter.
We would like you to chat with us as we bring to mind the sights and sounds so familiar to that time in history. Grab your favorite malt or Green River. Make sure you are wide awake and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Hello. We're so happy again that you joined us. This is episode number 31. Just think, last fall we began our fun chats, Jackie, and now each week has progressed and we've learned more about the technical aspects of this, and we have just had such a wonderful time broadening our knowledge about the 1950s. But of course, our fun chat idea was developed because of our book that you see located in the upper right hand corner of our screen. That's the front cover. And we want to announce a very special award that our 11-month-old book has received. It's a national award, and it's the 2022 Independent Press Award for the category of regional favorite. And it's a distinguished favorite honor that it has received. We couldn't be happier, and especially that it is a national award, and the fact that it a group of publishers, copyright editors, book cover designers, librarians, and more folks involved and decided on the winners that would be announced for the 2022 Press Award. So Windmill has a seal to put beside it now, and we're excited about that. So Jackie, we have a wonderful lineup today of a guest who is a North Dakota native, and I'll let you take it from there.
Thank you. And viewers, while you're perusing the screen, I hope you're doing that. Would you look at the bottom and notice the banner that's crawling across the bottom? It says, "While the Windmill Watched, a slice of rural America." No, whilethewindmillwatched.com. That is our website. And look up in the upper right-hand corner. You'll see that beautiful North Dakota sunset, which wraps around the book. This book, While the Windmill Watched, a Slice of Rural America in the 1950s, includes many of our memories that Janine and I have in living in the northern Great Plains in the 1950s. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce to you Rob Lein. Now, Rob was born in 1956 in Bismarck and grew up in Wing, North Dakota. His dad owned a grocery/general store in Wing, so Rob grew up thinking he'd be led to the grocery business. But Rob was also interested in sports and in writing. So thanks to employment by the Wilton News, he gained some experience in these areas while he was in high school. After graduation from Wing High School, Rob attended Bismarck Junior College, now Bismarck State College, and completed his education at Morehead State University, studying journalism and communications. So today, Rob is active in the Lions Club, and he has been the district manager of the Lions twice. That responsibility, plus his sports writing duties and simple travel, have taken him to every county in North Dakota. And Rob, how many counties are there in North Dakota?
I didn't count. I did count that I have been to every one.
Yes.
I kind of went by the map and I go, yep, I've been there. By golly, I've been to every county.
Yes, good for you.
I'm not even a politician.
When you were in eighth grade, did you have to study North Dakota civics and learn all those counties and county seats?
We did. And, that was kind of tough to learn all those county seats. But some of them were obvious, but some of them they weren't so obvious. Like, for example, there's what is it? Which county is it where its center is the largest town, but you got Stanton as the county seat.
So the number 52 came to my mind from my 8th grade, and I don't know if that's right or not.
That's what I'm thinking too.
Okay, 52 counties. We remembered something.
Our cat is joining us for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Perfect.
So, perfect. Rob, I understand that you actually used your college degree as a stepping stone. Sometimes that doesn't always take place. And the stepping stone was to a lifelong career in sports writing. So tell us about that journey.
Well, in high school, I had this wonderful, wonderful English teacher. And I say that especially because this is kind of a funny story. I was having a hard time when he first came. And he had a conference with my parents and I. And I'm thinking, oh boy, that's never any good news. But instead, he said the magic words. He said, Rob, I believe in you. And I was, what teacher tells you that? That is so wonderful. And to say that in front of your parents. And I just made a complete turnaround. And I was all of a sudden, and then he taught a journalism class, and I got into that, and I was the tallest guy in Wing High School at the time, but I was very clumsy, and so I was a student manager for the basketball team. And our coach said, well, since you're writing journalism stories, why don't you write for the local paper, the Wilton News, and because Wilton isn't that far from Wing, and do stories on our basketball team. And I did, and I got hooked. I fell in love with the writing aspect. I fell in love with putting sports into it. And so I was a sports writer for 28 years, first in Williston, then in Bismarck. Bismarck was for 22 years, and then Fargo. But the Fargo one was short-lived. It wasn't the greatest situation. Plus, I had grandkids I wanted to watch grow up, and I couldn't do that because I was working on weekends and evenings. Sure. So I switched over and I got a job with the Pepsi call center. And now instead of gabbing or telling people stuff with my fingers, I'm doing it with my mouth.
Okay. Probably very successfully.
Thank you.
So you had a long career in communications in the 50s and beyond.
It's still going on.
Yes. So how do you suppose the communication advances in the 50s affected you, both personally or professionally?
There were a couple of things here. First of all, TV. My dad at his little general store, not little, it was pretty big for a town like Wing, but he also sold TVs. And so I'm colorblind. And when he had color TVs, sometimes he'd take a TV out to the farm, to somebody's farm, and he'd purposely alter the color and have me change it back. And he'd say, see, even my colorblind kid can straighten it out.
What a good advertising gimmick.
Boy, I tell you, no kidding. And then another thing, my dad was always a newspaper reader, and he had subscribed to the Bismarck Tribune, the Fargo Forum, and later on he subscribed to the Daily Minneapolis Tribune.
Oh, okay.
And with, of course, then the Wilton News too, which was part of the Washburn Leader now. But we were always I was always around newspapers and always around magazines. He had magazines like Sports Illustrated, Time, Life, and I was always into them. And I don't think I ever studied the writing, but maybe it kind of got into me, you know?
Did your writing techniques change over the years that you were involved in the business?
Absolutely. You know, when you start out, you're kind of, especially in sports, you kind of depend on cliches. Well, then you're growing and you read others and see, oh boy, I want to try a little bit of that style. And you write it a little bit more clever, in a more clever way, rather than depend on cliches. Another thing, though, too, as far as communications goes, I got into the layout of the newspapers, layout, and that included headline writing. And I always loved the headline writing aspect. One of my favorite headlines that I wrote was when the town of Hazen, the Hazen Bison girls basketball team, won the state borough girls basketball tournament. And they weren't expected to win. So the headline I wrote when they won the championship was simply "Amazing Hazen."
Yeah.
So that was one of my
left the door wide open, didn't it, for either type of win?
It kind of did, and I am known to level off some puns. So
okay. That just makes it more interesting. It causes people to smile, I'm sure, in your writing.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
One of the nicest compliments I had was from the wife of Fred Fridley, who was the longtime football coach up in Watford City. When I left the Williston Herald for the Bismarck Tribune, she saw me at a game and she says, "Oh, Rob, we sure miss you up there around the Williston area." That was nice. One of the nicest things.
Yes.
So you have been talking about your small town of Wing. So how do you think being raised in a small town contributed positively to your adult life?
Oh, so many ways. One of the things is that I'm involved in the Lions Club. I believe in giving back to the community. And I saw the people in Wing giving back whenever somebody needed something. They were there, the Lions Club or the Legion Club, whoever. Everybody looks out for each other. And I think that's helped me in my life. I think it's helped me in my professional works. I think it's helped me. It's definitely helped me I'm actually a step parent and a step grandparent, but you know, I'm a parent and a grandparent. But I think that's helped me there too. You know, a lot of these small towns, especially right now, they're in trouble and they need all the help they can get. And I'm seeing some of these Lions clubs, or you're not seeing as many Legion clubs anymore, really helping out. And I saw what was going on in Wing, and I knew I wanted to become a member of the Lions Club maybe when I was 9 years old. The kind of influence they had on me.
Can you give us some specific examples of how the Lions Club helped folks or businesses in Wing?
Yes. There was a kid from the town next door, Regan, and he was blind. The Wing Lions Club bought him a watch that blind people could read. And, you know, this kid wasn't that much older than me. And I just thought, wow, that is so nice. The Lions Club to do that. That had to make such a big difference in his life.
Sure.
There were other things that are maybe a little bit trite, like for our baseball teams, we always wore uniforms that said Wing Lions Club on the back of it. But they organized town picnics so people could get together and have fun together. It was just a good time growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see those Lions clubs in small towns anymore in North Dakota, like you
We
did
do.
back then?
We do. In fact, some are really thriving.
Good.
Yeah. Some have a lot of members, like, well, Linton, which I don't really consider a small town, but they have like 60 members in their club.
Mm-hmm.
And they really go to work for their club, for their town. There's the little town of Tuttle, which is next to Wing.
Mm-hmm.
They have doubled their membership. They were down to like 15. Now they're up to 30.
Mm-hmm.
And Tuttle is one of those towns that it was about 300 people when I was growing up, about the same size as Wing. Now it's down to like 85. And
Mm-hmm.
Robinson, next to Tuttle, they have more Lions Club members than they have people in town.
My goodness, that's amazing.
Sterling, the same way.
Sterling has one too?
Sterling has one, yes, and they're thriving.
Wow, and doing good for the benefit of North Dakota. That's kind of how North Dakotans think, isn't it?
But you know what? I'll joke with some of my customers because this has been a long, cold winter here in North Dakota, and I'll just say I'm in Fargo, North Dakota, and right away, oh, I know it's cold there. I said, I'll joke with them and I'll say, well, I've lived in North Dakota all my life, but it ain't because of the winters.
Yes, yes, right.
Well, when we lived there, I remember hearing that the weather keeps the riffraff out.
Yeah, that's the old saying. 40 below keeps the riffraff out.
Yeah.
The unofficial North Dakota state motto.
Yeah.
So I first learned of you, Rob, through Facebook, and viewers. That is how Jackie and I capture or talk to or introduce ourselves to many of our guests on the Fun Chat. We reach out to you from our Facebook posts on the Fun Chat. And today we are visiting with Rob Lein, who lives in Fargo, North Dakota, but grew up in the small town of Wing, North Dakota. But Wing had a great heart. If you're listening to Rob, and a very a heart that was certainly giving to people who were in need, as are so many towns in North Dakota. So I want to go back to Wing, North Dakota, and one of those Facebook posts that you had, because you always have Wing Wednesday as a Facebook post. And the last week's one was about East Pond. Tell me about East Pond and how that influenced the lives of children and family members in the Wing community.
The East Pond was such a fun place. It and I say was, unfortunately. It's still there, but since the early 1960s, it's been since maybe 1965, it hasn't been able for public use. We used to be able to swim. There was a diving board there. There was a raft in the middle of this little pond, and this little pond was started by the CCCs back in the 1930s. So he dug this little hole in this area that is already it's kind of good and it's kind of bad because it's right next to a slough. The slough has kind of taken over that area, unfortunately, but there used to even be changing rooms for boys and girls, but there were picnics after picnics. I mentioned the Lions having picnics. Oh my gosh, that or church picnics. Sometimes we'd take a dip too. I took swimming lessons there, but I didn't do so well. I was maybe a little bit too young at the time. And instead of trying to do the dead man's float, you know how you start out, I kind of cheated. I walked, I still remember that day when it's funny how I can remember these things. I still remember watching my dad go off the diving board and thinking, oh, I can't wait until I can go off the diving board like that.
Uh-huh.
And
How deep was the water in the East Pond?
I don't know. I'm going to guess maybe about 12 feet deep at the very most.
Sure.
Just because they could have a diving board.
Mhm.
Maybe even lower. It could have been as low as 8 feet.
Wow. Were there other gathering spots in the wing community other than the East Pond?
Oh, yes. There is a place west of Wing, between Wing and the little town of Regan, we call simply the Rocks. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. There are these big, huge rock formations that people have had picnics there. Young people have had parties there. You'll see a few occasional empty beer cans out there still. And there are carvings on these rocks of people's names from back in the early 1900s when people started going there. And you see an occasional heart with initials in it. And some of them are divorced now.
I was just going to ask you if you knew if those people had gotten married, or if it was a high school romance.
Or some were high school romances that didn't last, and but some I've noticed there were some others that stayed. Well, but I know, like one of my cousins, he put a heart in with his initials and his ex-wife's initials.
Yes, that happens. Hey, Rob, did you have a car during your teenage years?
I did. Well, first I used my dad's station wagon. My dad had a station wagon, which I always grumbled about, but it was for hauling things for his store.
Sure.
Sometimes he would haul things from Bismarck, some goods, and for a while there, that was used as the wing ambulance until Wing finally did get an actual ambulance.
Oh.
He was the paramedic of the town, you might say. But then my dad got my mom a Chevy Vega when I was a junior in high school, and that became my car. And those Chevy Vegas, I tell you, they were more recycled beer cans because those were the days when you could ask the gas station attendant to fill the pump.
Sure.
And with that Vega, I usually said, fill the oil and check the gas.
Hey, Rob, tell us what, for our viewers, in case there are viewers who haven't had this experience, what was it like to take your car to the gas station to get gas? What kind of service was offered?
Oh, gosh, it was wonderful service because they'd wash your windshields, even if the windshields were clean.
Yeah.
They'd pump your gas. And I always thought that was such a neat thing, being able to pump the gas. And I even had a summer job in Bismarck in 1976 where I did pump gas. And oh gosh, they check the oil and they check the battery. It depended. Now the people in Wing. The Wing at that time had 3 gas stations, and all of them, they were the attendants. Holy cow! they just put out the red carpet for you when you came in.
Yeah.
And but that was what they were paid to do.
Mhm.
Yes. Do you remember when they would also have the little whisk broom in their back pocket and they
Yep.
would sweep out the floors of the front seat? I don't remember that they would sweep the back.
I remember that at some places, not all the places, of course.
Okay.
But, you know,
And do you remember any prices when you were driving? How much a gallon for gas?
I want to say the lowest that I can remember when I was driving might have been around 50 cents, 56 cents.
Mhm.
I remember us going on a trip and my dad saying, "Oh, there's a gas war on." And I'm thinking, what? There's a war going on? Where? Who's shooting at it? Someone. But then he showed, I still remember this. Know how why I remember this, but I can't remember how to do my taxes every year. I still remember the sign said 29 cents a gallon.
That's
So
what I
I was
remember.
on a trip, and I remember that as a little kid, 29 cents a gallon. My dad pointed that out. It was 29
Yes.
cents a gallon.
Well, and gas stations back then, did they sell soda pop? Did they sell candy bars? Did they sell anything else? Were they in much of a convenience store?
Not like they are now.
Mhm.
Nowadays, they are much more the convenience store.
Mhm.
A lot of times back then, they had a pop machine.
Mhm.
Sometimes they didn't sell candy or chips like you. Now, boy, there are some places where they seem like regular supermarkets.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I like them now better than back then because, you know, my wife and I, we invariably will drive out to Bismarck, to south of Bismarck to see her mom, or out to Dickinson, which is 300 miles away, to see my mom. And she, you know, we want something to eat along the way. And it's so nice, too. If we want something to eat along the way, we don't have to stop and necessarily eat at a restaurant. We can stop at
Mhm.
some of these gas stations have much better food than the fast food chains.
Well, and think of the bathrooms too. Remember
Oh
back
my
in the day
gosh.
that you had to get a key from the attendant in order to go outside and around the building, usually in the back, to use the bathroom.
Oh gosh. I remember that so well.
Yes.
And they weren't the nicest bathrooms. Now you go into these places and holy cow, you can almost eat off the floor.
Well, and
Oh,
they're warm in the wintertime. It's not frigid out there, too.
No, I really like, and working with Pepsi, I do sell to some of these convenience stores, and I try and sell them something new, something new that we have, something that I always like to sell things that my wife and I like.
Sure.
Makes sense.
Mhm.
It's easier to sell that way.
Rob, we're getting to the end of our broadcast, but I do have a couple questions that I'd like to ask each guest.
Mhm.
One is, off the top of your head, what would be a fun memory that you can recall from that 1950s era?
The most fun memory I have is of my grandpa, my dad's dad. They lived in Bismarck. They were originally from Wing. My dad's parents. My dad graduated from high school in Wing as well, but he passed away in 1960, March of 1960. But I can still remember him. He painted, and he had a whole bunch of paintings that he did, and I remember. And I was only like 3 years old, if even that. I remember watching him paint these pictures. And I remember one he painted of Yankee Stadium. He did that for my dad because my dad was such a big Yankee fan. And I have that painting somewhere. There was another one. He painted a picture. It was kind of funny. It was a robber trying to get away riding a moose in a river. And there was a cowboy chasing after him in a white horse and a lasso. But I think back, why was that robber riding the moose in the river?
Don't you wonder if he got caught by the sheriff?
Well, that cowboy was right behind him, and he was twirling his lasso, and he was going to catch him right there. But why a moose? Other than, my grandpa belonged to the Moose Club. That's the only thing I can think of.
He was thinking outside the box. That's for sure.
He was. And he had some other really fantastic paintings too that have been dispersed through the family, and so I just recently got another one of those paintings. And
what a treasure to have!
And I also remember him making desks for my sisters. My sisters are older than me. I'm the whoops of the family. There's a 9-year difference between myself and my closest sister, but he had some carpentry skills, and he made desks for them to sit at home and do their homework.
Do you still have that desk?
I don't know. I'd have to ask my sister. One of my sisters has passed away, but my other sister, who lives in Arizona, I'll be seeing her soon. I'll have to ask her about that desk.
Sure. And the other question is, what from the 1950s was influential in your life as you grew to become an adult?
Well, actually, there are a lot of things. One of them was the Wing Lions Club was started in the 1950s, and my dad became a district governor, and I've obviously been influenced by them. Mm-hmm. Another thing, sports. My dad was such a big sports fan, and he had me throwing the ball at the very youngest of ages. And I knew I was a baseball fan in the 50s, and a sports fan in general. And in 1961, the first year the Minnesota Twins were in Minnesota, we went down for a Twins-Yankees series.
Oh.
And, I was like my dad. I was rooting for the Yankees, but the next year I changed on him. I became a Twins fan.
Our grandma Weiss was quite a Twins fan. She made it a special effort. Every time she could see a Twins game on TV, she would watch it.
My grandma Lein was too. Now I remember my mom's parents. My mom's mom died when she was 2 years old, and her dad died 2 years before I was born. But my grandma was, she listened to them on the radio, and she had that transistor with the little plug-in in the ear. Sure. And she'd I'd be playing around. She'd say, "Shh, shh, the Twins are playing." Or we'd be watching the game. Shh, shh. There's Harmon Killebrew. There's Bob Allison. Shh, watch them play.
Such a treasure. Rob, thank you so much for being our guest today. These stories are just remarkable, and it just helps us grow our knowledge of the 1950s and the fun that it was in the 1950s, and of course the influences that were there to help us along our way in life. So we thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.
By the way, speaking of Wing Wednesday, I do that every week, of course. And today I have a picture of a couple of friends of mine who are Finns. If you remember, March 16th is St. Urhu's Day, the Finnish answer to St. Patrick's Day.
Oh,
And
really?
there were a lot of Finns south of Wing. Now,
Yes.
I'm full-blooded Norwegian. They had
Uh-huh. Well,
was-
we'll have to catch that on Facebook.
yeah, go check that
Yeah.
out.
All right. Well, viewers, we do thank you for enjoying and watching this broadcast today. And until the next time, we hope that you will just think and reflect on the events and the times of the 1950s, including hot cars and soda jerks and poodle skirts and all those other fun things of that decade. Right, Jackie?
Well, that plus today, be sure to click on the red subscribe button or that little thumbs up button and let us know that you've been there watching. Please tell your friends, even your relatives, about the 1950s Fun Chat. And do join us Monday evening, 8 p.m. Central Time for the latest Fun Chat. You can view it also on YouTube channel. Just type into your browser, YouTube, the 1950s Fun Chat, and you'll be able to see all of our programs.
That's right. And if you want to learn more about the Pfeiffer sisters and our award-winning book, While the Windmill Watched, A Slice of Rural America in the 1950s, you can go to our website at whilethewindmillwatch.com. And not only can you learn more about Jackie and me, but you will also learn where the vendors of our book are located. And maybe you're not situated close to one of those vendors. Don't worry, because you can order right off the website through the North Dakota State University bookstore, and they will get that book sent to you. So we're so thankful that we have all those vendors and that they believe in our book as much as the adjudicators for that national award that our windmill book has received. So until next time, we will see you, and bye-bye.